Is there a really decent American pop music group since Blondie? I don't think so.
I mean, to this day, I think Debbie Harry is probably the most striking front woman ever.
Been a lot of Blondie lookalikes and sound-alikes, but no one will ever be Debbie.
I mean, even Madonna hasn't quite been able to be that effortlessly cool.
The only thing wrong with Blondie is they didn't make enough money. Maybe you can make up for that now.
Get you one way or another. I'm gonna win ya. I'll get you one day, maybe next week. I'm gonna see ya. I'll meet you one way or another. I'm gonna see ya. I'll meet you, yeah.
They're the most successful pop group fronted by a woman ever. 7 #1 singles, over 30 million albums sold. A band that defies categorization. Yet the tale of Blondie is as much about lowlights as highlights, with a powerful love story at its heart. Blondie, formed in 1974, is the union of 4 people: guitarist Chris Stein, drummer Clem Burke, keyboard player Jimmy Destry, and the singer who made anything possible and everything unforgettable, Debbie Harry. Theirs is a real New York story. The city has been the inspiration and backdrop to everything the band has done. And the story starts in the 1950s, just over the river in Hawthorne, New Jersey, home to a newly adopted young Debbie.
I grew up in suburbia, New Jersey, metropolitan New York, and this relatively small town.
Debbie was adopted at birth. She never knew who her mother was or who her father was. And she did have a radically different look than the rest of the people in her family. She looked like Marilyn Monroe, and she told me that for quite a long time, she kept alive the notion that Marilyn Monroe could have been her mother. In relation to the timing, it's possible. And she wanted Marilyn to have been her mother because it would explain to her why she herself felt the way she did.
I didn't really feel comfortable. I felt imprisoned. I think that I just really wanted to have a kind of interaction with other people that was different than what, was expected of me or what was available in suburbia. So I was, like 12 or 13 years old, and I would, on a Saturday morning, for 80 cents, I could get a round-trip ticket to New York City. I would get on a train, and I would go into the city, and I would walk around the West Village, which was old-timey New York, with the little small streets. And I would look at all the theaters and the clubs and the coffee shops. I would look at all the posters and see who was playing, and it was very exciting for me.
Seduced by the city at an early age, suburban Debbie became the classic restless teenager, inexorably drawn to the wild side of life.
She was very hungry for attention and very hungry for love and very hungry for contacts. She used to spend the weekends going to this place called Mile.
Oh, Mile?
Which was basically where you went and walked up and down to have sex with people in the back of cars.
I like to experiment. I think I really enjoyed the darker side, the underside of things. And, I didn't do a great deal of it, but it was very meaningful for me. And I really did I wanted to see a real cross-section. I mean, I wasn't content to be a white, middle-class, girl growing up and doing what was expected of her. But it certainly was pretty nice.
Unable to resist the Big Apple, Debbie moved across the water. She waited on tables. She even worked as a bunny girl, and found her voice as backing singer in hippie folk group Wind in the Willows.
My uncle used to love me, but she died. Chicken ain't chicken till it's licking good pride. I said, keep on the sunny side. My uncle used to love me, but she died.
Not surprisingly, the Willows soon wilted. But it was while singing in her next group, all-girl trio The Stilettos, that she had a date with destiny and the man who would change her life.
One fine day, you look at me.
Tell us how you met, how you both remember it.
Well, I went
Met at a bar.
I went to the first Stilettos show.
He was very prominent in the audience to me for some reason, and yet I couldn't really see his face, but there was something about his, I don't know, his presence there that I felt very relaxed about.
The fact that they became friends first deepened the possibilities of that relationship so much for her. Because here the first time was a guy who seemed like an interesting guy, a decent guy, etc., intelligent guy, who wasn't just trying to go to bed with her, right? And I don't know how long it was, but it was certainly a few months before they got involved, which is, you know, a long time.
I probably saw in her what a lot of people saw later on. That was it. But I got there first.
Chris and Debbie had found love, and together they found the downtown club that would change both their lives. CBGBs, birthplace of the burgeoning US punk scene.
Let's go! Let's go!
Oh, here we are. Oh, I feel like such an old person coming in here like this. It's awful.
It was humid. It was smelly.
Get a good shot of these walls, and then we'll go into the wallpaper business, because I think we could really sell this.
Beer, dog shit, Chanel No. 5, aroma.
Hilly, the owner, had a half a dozen dogs, and he never walked them. He just took them to the check room.
Toilets is a place you definitely didn't want to go. They probably hadn't been cleaned since 1917.
There were these bathrooms, and my former wife, I guess opened the door, and there they were, Chris and Debbie having sex, and they just decided they were going to do it, and they did.
So tell us about the famous myth.
What? That we were screwed in the toilet? It's not true. It was the alley back here.
Yeah.
Okay? Happy now?
I think CB's was the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. I really do. Because there was an oasis. When you want to be a pop star all your life, and here's a venue that's going to let you do that, let you go out and play your songs. It's Mecca.
Nobody came here except for people that were in the bands, had something to do with the bands, etc.
The audience was the other bands, basically. If you threw a guitar pick in any direction, in CBGBs one night, you're bound to hit like a Talking Head or Ramone or a Heartbreaker or somebody in television or Suicide or Chris or Debbie. This was home for a lot of people.
Everybody in the fucking audience for the first few years was involved with the band somehow.
But one thing I hated about the scene was the snobbery of a lot of the people who hung out there. Everybody was in a band or a rock critic, so nobody would applaud, nobody would go crazy. You could put on a great show, and you'd hear the crickets afterwards. It was like the beatnik cafes where everybody snapped their fingers after a performance.
Chris and Debbie were CBGB regulars, so it seemed only natural that they should have a band of their own. But in a world of leather-clad Ramones and talking head geeks, they needed something to help them stand out from the crowd.
I wanna be a platinum blonde, just like all the sexy stars.
When I first met her, she had very short, dark hair. And she came home one day with her hair dyed like blonde and like twiggy sort of haircut.
My My understanding about where the name Blondie came from was that this was what all the truck drivers used to, yell at Debbie, or they would whistle and say, "Hey, Blondie." And that subsequently became, the group.
I went into CBGBs and I saw Debbie Harry sing, and I thought, wow, this girl is fabulous.
Debbie was like, oh my God.
I had a lovely girlfriend already, but I mean, she was stunning.
But in a way, she was so beautiful that it would be provocative. And the intellectual types didn't like Blondie. Blondie was looked down on back then, as I remember.
All these men seem nice at first. After a while, they get bad at work.
When we played at CBGB the first 18 months, we weren't the most confident of bands.
We weren't very good. We were pretty bad. Chris would forget what the thing in his hands was. So, he would sort of look at the guitar like, what's this?
I mean, we sound so good now, we must have just always sounded like crap in those days.
We weren't always like playing the same song at the same time.
Well, my mama didn't teach me why I shouldn't let you reach me, and I'm glad that's a lesson.
I mean, Debbie would forget the lyrics. Blondie was sort of a joke band.
And there were repeatedly remarks that Blondie made it on Debbie's panties, that if Debbie fell over on stage, someone sort of caught a look at her panties, that what would be more interesting than the songs.
I say a girl should know better. I do.
Yeah, we weren't taken seriously initially because, one factor was because we had a girl singer. And, it was very much a boys' club. There was really only Patti Smith and Debbie.
Patti Smith was kind of like the goddess at the time.
Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not mine.
Debbie was a fan of Patti's. We were all fans of Patti's. I thought Patti was remarkable.
Patti went to Debbie and said, "There's not room enough for both of us here. And you're no good. You don't have any talent. You can't really sing. Why don't you leave?"
Patti wouldn't even want Debbie on the same bill.
It was the first crisis for the fledgling band as Blondie suddenly found bookings hard to come by. They responded by setting up camp just spitting distance from the club on the Bowery, a godforsaken street in a bankrupt town.
It's a long time since anyone has said the streets of New York are paved with gold. The fact is, New York City is bankrupt, and if the streets are lined with anything, it's potholes. So many of them, there's a special potholes department at the City Hall.
New York was broke. I remember the headline, Jerry Ford tells New York City, drop dead.
Soho, when I came here, there was not one restaurant. There was no lights at night.
We used to have to walk by dead bodies lying on the street.
That's true.
So you could rent 1,000 square feet for $70 a month.
This is the place.
In an artist-in-resident loft area.
Where they lived was extraordinary.
It doesn't smell like piss anymore.
We had 3 floors, 4 floors, and we all chipped in.
Wow.
It was haunted. Chris and Debbie swore they saw 2 little children in sweatshop-era clothes holding hands.
So then there was no heat throughout the night. Now, New York winters can be extremely cold.
This floor here never used to have any heat.
Some of the coldest days of the year, rehearsing with gloves on, with little finger holes cut out.
He don't hang around with the gang no more. He don't do the wild things that he did before.
If you looked up at the ceiling, there were certain areas in certain rooms where the ceiling was just gone. And there were rafters. And our landlord, he'd come home at night, he'd pee in bottles because he wouldn't want to come down and disturb us using the bathroom. And we'd come in for rehearsal and we wouldn't want to play too loud to, knock the piss over.
It was actually the crucible of Blondie, very much, that loft.
And we had built a little, tiny little stage sort of thing, maybe a few inches off the ground, and set the amps up there. So we could sort of, learn the songs and also practice performing and how you're going to do it and all that sort of thing. At one point we were rehearsing every day. Not only did we learn the material, but we developed an identity.
That identity was refined in the loft, thanks to Chris's eye for a photo and the perfect muse.
Hey,
Chris was always, photographically inclined and cinematically inclined.
And he had the greatest subject in the world, in Debbie.
He definitely knew that shots of Debbie, were going to make it to the cover of certain magazines.
Pictures that we did of Debbie in the zebra outfit were over here, for sure. I remember we used to set up a psych here with, just white paper. Somehow this came together, this image. I sent it to Cream magazine, and they put it in as the Cream Dream, even though most people hadn't heard the music yet.
I was publishing a magazine called Punk, and shortly after we published this poster, Chris said, well, thanks to this poster, we got signed to Private Stock Records.
Punk Playmate of the Month got Blondie their first record deal, and the first single was released in the summer of '76.
Gary Valentine, our original bass player, wrote this song called Ex-Offender, which was just a 3-chord thing. And Gary used to hop at that speed. And Debbie came up with a lyric. I was like,
You may be my rights, and then you said, let's go and nothing more.
You ever want to know why they wanted me to leave the band? You look at that video for Ex-Offender, and I'm like just jumping all over the place. They were afraid I was going to decapitate Debbie because I used to just like jump around all the time and swing the bass.
Ex-Offender was backed with a B-side called In the Flesh, and the record went out, and when it went to Australia, In the Flesh became a #1 record, much to our surprise, because the DJ played the wrong side.
So the B-side of our record was a song called In the Flesh, which was a ballad. Kicks off with the most cliched of drum riffs, just using the 3 drums, just the...
Darling, 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 I can't wait to see you. Your picture ain't enough.
Molly Meldrum on the show Countdown, when he introduced the song, he introduced it as Ex-Offender and then played the In the Flesh video.
Darling, darling, darling,
And it went to #1 in Australia.
remembering your
His mistake got us national recognition in that small but large country. And we went there and got our first gold record award, our first #1, and our first real tour.
Contest it, you can't be read off down. Urban Gray takes breath away, he wants to push his pedal to the ground.
Our biggest exposure to an audience on stage or anywhere is when we plucked right out of CBGBs, taken on tour with Iggy Pop.
I invited Blondie on my first solo tour for the Idiot record with David Bowie on piano.
He just listened to the first record and he thought, this would be a nice, cute act. But Debbie really stole the crowd.
She'd wear little go-go boots and kick her knees up a lot and shake her ponytail, that kind of thing.
Her confidence was improved. I mean, she was growing daily.
An American ponytail girl as seen through the lens of Roger Vadim or something. It's kind of like Barbarella on Speed, something like that.
There were Iggy fans there, but Debbie did make an indent.
A band will feed off an audience, and they'll get better because the audience appreciates them, and they'll put on a great show as a result. We never saw that in the mid-'70s in New York City.
When you leave your home spot where everyone knows you, you're more easily able to be the person you made up, because no one's going to say, fuck that, you're full of shit.
So the first time Blondie got outside New York and had an audience who liked them, they went nuts.
Baby, baby, I can drive with you. T-shirt them off too.
Bowie and I both tried to hit on Debbie backstage. We couldn't get anywhere, but she's very smooth about that. It was always sort of, hey, well, maybe another time when Chris isn't around, Very, very cool about it.
But there was nothing cool about the reception they got in the next country they visited, as the Brits fell for Debbie and the band in a big way.
He happened to have been in England at the same time. we saw that the press went crazy over Blondie and Debbie Harry. And it was like, wow, she became an instant sensation.
Blondie blossomed in a very British way. They added English bass player Nigel Harrison, along with guitarist Frank Infante, and major UK label Chrysalis snapped them up and primed them for their first British single.
The next song that really catapulted us to success in the UK was Denis Denis.
Denis Denis was a great old song. I remember we got a compilation record of old oldies or whatever the hell it was.
And a guy named Neil Levinson wrote this song called Denise that Randy and the Rainbows recorded in the 50s.
Actually, the beginning just kind of has the floor tom.
Did with that song is we put footsteps behind it and made it really loud, you know, footsteps with the drum kit. Honey, I mean, walking like that, and Clem was like out of time. No, don't tell him I said that. We were walking, and Clem was clapping on the off.
So, guess what? The feet and the hand claps are out of time with the drums. You know, it'll forever be out of sync and it'll forever be a hit record. So sometimes mistakes are the best part of a record.
We did Denis Denis on Top of the Pops, and you could just see it change overnight. So, you know, we were doing the regular gigs, and there was the fan base and stuff like that. But for me, growing up in England, knowing the power of Top of the Pops, we were playing the gig in Dunstable. People had seen Top of the Pops, then they'd gone up to the gig, and it was just mania.
There was a great moment in Dunstable where this gang of skinheads sort of Dawn of the Dead marched up on the stage and started just stomping around. It's a big fracas in the crowd. I remember dragging her off into the wings.
I mean, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and there were some situations where Debbie would go, Jimmy, get me out of here, and I just like whisk her out because people were all over her.
On the back of Denis, Blondie scored another 3 hits in 1978. Wherever they went, there were men bearing gifts.
Please ask you to tell us who is Swap Shop's favourite pop star.
Congratulations with your #1 record in Holland. I picked some flowers in my garden and here they are.
Debbie Harry from Blondie.
Debbie Harry of the pop group Blondie arrives for an autograph session at a record store.
That was the dream sequence. It was just mania. I was at High Street, Kensington. You know, it's like you were at Buckingham Palace or something, but like one more wave, and I mean, it was just nuts.
See Debbie again. Debbie, go to the window.
You should open the window and they're all, close the window, open it.
One more time.
It was a taste of what the Beatles went through, just a taste.
When we were leaving, they pull up this bus. They were in such a rush with all the security on Debbie. And I, like an idiot, stopped to sign an autograph. And of course, the bus doors closed. And I remembered Debbie going, Nigel, Nigel.
Nigel!
So I had to chase down the street after the bus.
Let's go. Hey. See you guys. All right.
That was kind of knowing that you'd arrived when that was going on. Because it wasn't fake, you know, it wasn't just a couple of hundred people, it's thousands of people.
Blondie and Debbie just seemed to fit England like a glove from the first moment they went there. More than any other band, really.
I mean, to this day, I think Debbie Harry is probably the most striking front woman ever.
All I want is a room with a view, a sight worth seeing
When you think of Blondie at the time, the overriding image is of this, obviously the hair, the blondness. It was all often backlit, so you'd have this quite ethereal glow behind the head.
You mean I walked around with a flashlight taped to my back?
Once that glow dimmed or she moved into the light, you suddenly see that the hair wasn't quite as perfectly blonde as it appeared at first. There was the blonde glamour side of her, and then there was all these black bits at the back. And I think that was very, very canny, very deliberate. I may be this blonde goddess, but I'm also something else.
Because she was doing her hair herself, she could only do what was happening in what she could see.
I couldn't reach it or see it to do it properly. And when you stand in a mirror and look at the back of your head and try to go like that, everything is opposite.
Her hair was non-conventional while still looking, she kind of looked like a Barbie doll, but it was so fucked up looking that it had a sort of edge to it and a grime to it that made her cool.
How does it feel to be living with a sex symbol? I couldn't be happier. It's great. That's an ego boost to a man. It's fantastic.
Which is why every teenage male of my generation had a picture of her on their wall. There was the high boots, the short skirt, the little flash of thigh, usually colour coordinated with the top. But what was interesting was that girls loved her too. I think teenage girls found her very empowering.
Great singer, looks fantastic. She's funny and she's smart, and her lyrics have a lot of attitude.
I didn't want to take the position of being a victim or being pushed around or being under the gun or whatever it was. And I said, you know, it's got to change.
In Picture This, she sings about wanting to watch the boyfriend shower.
I will give you my finest hour, the one I spent watching you shower.
And I think at that time, the idea of a woman actually looking at a man was quite a new idea. Women were there to be looked at, men looked at women.
All I want is a photo in my wallet.
But here she was, claiming the right to look back at the other man and making him the object.
All I want is a picture of you.
There was a much more matured sense of her own identity and confidence in herself.
She wasn't writing little love ballads or anything like that. She was, basically writing from life experiences.
Because Debbie wasn't exactly, 21 years old. She was in her 30s when Blondie became successful, even though, of course, she looked exquisite. And I don't think the British people who were buying the records really even thought too much about her age. But if she'd been plucked up at 19, things probably would have gone a completely different way.
But things were about to go a different way for the 33-year-old and her band. In spite of a run of hits, Blondie still hadn't had a #1. Moreover, none of their first run of singles even charted in the States. The record company brought in Mike Chapman, a producer of pure pop and international #1s, to polish the Blondie sound.
Terry Ellis at Chrysalis Records came to me. He said, I want to make them into a multi-platinum worldwide success. And I thought, oh God, great music, awesome music with a wonderful sense of humor and some very interesting elements, but it was all over the place musically. Clem had this attitude that he was Keith Moon and just wanted to play every drum all of the time. My first challenge was to rein in Clem.
I don't really have that much recollection of that.
That's not what I mean, Clem. I don't want you to play straight. I want you to play in time.
To be honest.
Can you do the same thing in time?
Maybe I blackened it out of my memory bank as an unpleasant experience.
It was a real challenge to convince them that this was out of tune and out of time.
I like the old rough stuff. To me, that's great. I like, you know what I mean? I almost prefer that on a certain level. I like the old stuff. The Blondie demos, to me, is like the essence of Blondie.
None of those are musicians. Musicians, they read music and they play the same thing over and over again.
My first intention was to clean the bloody band up.
Chapman saw the potential in Heart of Glass, but thought he could only make it a hit through painstaking construction, recording it note by note.
Right.
So we'd have the little almost metronome thing. And then Clem would do the kick drum.
Took 3 hours to put down the bass drum. I remember that, you know, because every damn little thing had to be in sync.
And then I think the following day it was the snare drum and the hi-hat. Then eventually the breaks.
Then came the guitars.
The guitar that got bum, 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 was done with a tape loop echo, so that took hours, you know.
And the vocals. So everything was built up in Heart of Glass. It was our first experience of building up a track.
Then suddenly it got picked up by the dance clubs, I guess, and it became a disco hit and rocketed to #1.
We were in Italy when we found that it was #1 in America, and we felt so fucking vindicated and so cool. We were dancing around and like popping champagne.
Time that New York crowd was sort of looking at him going, disco?
It was a bit disco-y for me.
Disco and punk were opposite ends of the spectrum.
I was pretty upset when they brought it out as a disco single since it put me out of business.
There was a lot of anger toward disco among the more articulate people on the punk scene.
There were stupid things like burn a disco record night at Cleveland Stadium, and you know, where there was a riot broke out.
And I know, for instance, our friends in the Ramones were very disappointed in us, and probably a bit jealous of our success as well.
How do you feel about Blondie and these people that have, in a sense, commercially eclipsed you?
They took that way to do that, play, you know, disco music and things like that to make it. We do what we believe in. We have our integrity.
I remember being at a party for one of the gold records they got. There were 3 of the Ramones standing outside, and they couldn't get in.
Well, you know, it put them in a different world. It put them in a different league from us. You know, we'd come up together, and the Ramones were the headliners, you know. And all of a sudden, there was an instant change.
There was a certain kind of camaraderie that lasted up until the reality of getting record deals and making money entered upon the scene.
Blondie were moving up in the world. Chris and Debbie moved out of the loft into a penthouse in a swanky neighbourhood. But the band found themselves under pressure from their manager Peter Leeds to make even bigger changes.
Do you want to go into any of this?
Who leads?
Yeah.
Do I have to?
Peter was getting a little too forceful with everybody. You know, we weren't his children. You know, we were his clients.
I think that I had trouble in terms of the artist, particularly Debbie and Chris, understanding the game plan, the big picture.
I'm gonna get you one way or another. I'm gonna win you. I'm gonna get you one way.
Well, he was very focused on me, and he tried to convince me to drop the band, that I was the only thing that was important. They were unimportant, they could be replaced. None of them were worth anything, and that I should break up with Chris.
I will drive past your house, and if the lights are all down.
Peter would leave little notes under the door like, "You're worthless, you're not needed," if you disagreed with him. I sort of got along with Peter, but I really didn't like that.
He told everybody in the band that they were replaceable.
Yeah, he said, you're all replaceable. And the best thing about it was that when he chose to do this, we had just left Japan. So we're all sitting there on this plane, and one sitting here, and one's, because we had a chance to spread out. And he came around to every single person and told them on that flight, while we were in the air, captive, that we were all replaceable. We all could be replaced.
My regret in this case, what you're speaking of, no, we can't talk about this. I don't want to talk about telling Chris Dunn I'd throw his ass out like I did Gary Valentine's. It's not a good thing to say at this point.
Bells really started to ring with the photo shoot for the album Parallel Lines.
I'm in the phone booth, it's the one across the hall. If you don't answer, I'll just ring it off the wall. I know he's there, but I just try to call.
When you're doing a group photograph with 6 different people, it's very hard to get a group shot where everybody likes themselves. So each band member had their picture taken separately, and then everybody got to go through and pick the images that they liked.
The album comes out, Chris Stein goes crazy.
What Peter Leeds did was he just ignored what the band had picked and chose the pictures he wanted.
Leeds fucking decided everybody should be grinning on the cover of Parallel Lines.
Debbie frowning and all of us smiling.
I don't ever remember hearing the issue of the band smiling, Debbie not whatever.
Little things like that, they seem small, but you know, if you feel like you're not in control of your image, it's not a good thing.
We got rid of Peter. It cost us a lot of money.
As we were in negotiations with Leeds, Heart of Glass was going up the charts every week, and so at the same time the song would go up, he would raise his price.
What did you get, Peter?
Now you know that I'm not going to discuss that.
Okay.
I'm very pleased to say that one of the terms of the contract was that the commission would be in effect in perpetuity.
Peter did a good job of bringing us to a major record company. I mean, we had to pay a price for that.
I continue to make a nice amount of money, which I have no apologies for.
He didn't do good business for us. He did good business for himself.
Peter Leeds walked away with nearly a quarter of the band's takings just as they hit the big time. Not that the hits dried up, they kept coming, and they felt bigger.
The video we did of Union City was pretty epic. It was done on the waterfront in New Jersey with the Manhattan skyline as a backdrop. There was even a helicopter shot came in on the band. The video was inspired by the anthemic quality of the song.
The sound of that record is enormous. It was the sound of a successful band. It was the sound of a big band that were actually sort of, striding the world stage now.
Blondie were at the top of their game. Chris and Debbie started writing hits for Hollywood as Call Me became the #1 theme to the #1 film American Gigolo. Debbie sat for Andy Warhol and became a true blonde icon. And Chris became a chat show host in the strictly bohemian world of New York cable TV.
TV Party was basically a sort of underground Tonight Show.
Hi, and welcome to TV Party.
I was the host, and Chris Stein was the co-host. And we would have some people come on and talk.
The way I lead my life is I just try not to be a to anybody, you know?
Sometimes we would show film clips from the sort of underground movies of the time.
You ready to take my picture?
What do you want these pictures anyhow?
To put in the windows and bars, and one for my boyfriend.
Chris's favorite part of the show was always the phone calls where people could call in and talk to us live on the air.
I was wondering, specifically, do you guys all have poles stuck up your ass?
No, just Czechs. Oh, we have Russians and Czechs stuck up our ass.
You could actually curse people out on our show.
These people would be thinking, your mother sucks cocks,
Was there a particular moment when you realized that you were a totally moronic asshole?
Hello?
You're all fags.
There may have been superstars, but it was in this chaotic world with just a few hundred viewers that Chris and Debbie, aided by violinist Walter Stedding and the TV Party Orchestra, debuted their next single, The Tide Is High.
The tide is high, but I'm holding on. I wanna be your number one. I'm not the
Debbie and the Boys. They did Tide Is High on TV Party. That was actually the first time I think they ever played it, you know, outside their bedroom. I wish I could have strangled Walter and dragged him off the stage because he's so unbearably out of tune in that.
the kind of girl who gives up just like that. Oh no. The tide is high, but I'm holding on. I'm gonna be your number one.
The bohemianism of the Blondies isn't apparent on first listen.
It's not the things you do that hurt at all, but it's
The surface is very much, you know, the pop group, but really they were kind of beatniks.
In this veritable melting pot of talent, Chris and Debbie met another key collaborator, Fab Five Freddy.
We have Freddie, the token black.
I met Chris and Debbie working on TV Party. So at the first show, you know, we all met and eventually became really good friends. I was one of those guys that painted on New York City subway trains, you know, as well as the walls and anywhere else I felt that my name, my signature needed to be. I put it there. I was into the beginnings of, you know, what we now know as hip hop, which was still going on just in the streets of New York and the Bronx.
You know, Blondie, they were one of the first ones to pick up on the rap scene.
Freddie took us up to this event in the Bronx.
It was a big gymnasium, and they would use this place to give rap concerts.
We were the only white people. And
we watched the show. All the things I had explained to Chris was going on in this scene, you know, how these guys are taking these records and doing this scratching thing, and there's this rapping, and there's this attitude, and they kind of got it all, put some seeds in their heads. Chris was a big fan of all types of music, especially black music, and one of the biggest groups at the time was a group called Chic. Chic's Good Times was the hot record that every DJ wanted to scratch. Good times.
As we did on Heart of Glass when we did our own take on disco, I guess this was a logical thing to get into now, was to do our take on the Chic thing.
We had the melody and we had the riff, but I don't think any of us was conscious like, whoa, we're doing a rap song.
Well, I remember Chris bringing in the idea and not understanding it. I was like aghast. I said, do you think we could do this?
We're white guys. How much could we possibly know?
The rap on Rapture got to the point where everything was done except the rap, and we had this like elongated section without a rap. So I said, whatever this rap is, now's your chance. This is your moment. Get out there and do it. And I said, okay, hang on, we better write it. So they stood there in about 10 or 15 minutes, wrote this rap, and out she went.
Excuse me.
She said, okay, I got it. I said, you do? Oh, all right. It's a lot of bars. She said, I got it. And she goes out, and she starts rapping away, and all those incredible, you know, eats guitars and eating cars and all that stuff. What was she on that day? I don't know.
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody slide. DJ spinning, I said, my, flash is fast, flash is cool, Francois, c'est pas, flash ain't no do.
That was about me describing what was going on the hip hop scene to Chris and Debbie when we would hang out and talk. She said, Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning, I said, my. Fly was a word used to describe, if you were part of the hip-hop scene and you had the right style, you were a fly guy or a fly girl, you know what I'm saying?
Flash is fast, flash is cool.
Flash is fast, flash is cool. And DJ named Grandmaster Flash was known as the fastest DJ because he had perfected this technique of manipulating the beats on the turntables in a seamless fashion.
And out comes a man from Mars, and you try to run, but you got a gun, and he shoots you dead, and he eats your head, and then you're in the...
It was the first time, I guess, a mainstream audience had a peek of what was about to become this huge movement called hip-hop.
Rapture completed a hat-trick of number ones in only 6 months, and all entirely different, from power pop to reggae to rap. Blondie were quite simply the biggest band in the world. Chris and Debbie celebrated by moving into a 6-story mansion in Upper Manhattan. Nothing could derail them, except themselves.
Well, the drugs were part of the, that was part of the deal. You work with Blondie, you get Blondie and whatever baggage they're carting around with it.
The 80s, it was sort of like glorification of cocaine, and it was fine.
For example, we would fly in from New York into London. We'd stay at a regular hotel. And normally you go there from the record company, there'd be a display of flowers, a bowl of fruit. By the time it got to 1980, there'd be 1/8 of an ounce of cocaine, along with the flowers and the fruit.
As a matter of fact, one of my managers told me that I should always keep a $100 bill on me. So in case I had to roll a bill up to snort some coke, it would be a $100 bill, so because that would be sort of hip.
By E to the beat, I found my drug, Chris found his drug, and, I got a little crazy.
It wasn't hard to see that something was going to go terribly wrong. The horn section that they brought in to play on Island of Lost Souls and whatever other tracks we used them on, they were all a bunch of junkies, like Puerto Ricans that they'd come across, and great players. And they were all junked out of their mind. The whole session, I was sweating profusely and disappearing into the bathroom and coming back, and I was like, no, even my horn section are junkies. God. The whole thing fell into this black hole. And we all tumbled in one after the other.
I think that's probably the main contributor to the band disbanding, is probably our drug problems.
The band had pushed the self-destruct button, and for Chris and Debbie, the glamour of the cocaine lifestyle was about to be replaced by a more dangerous addiction.
It was a period when heavy drug use, heroin specifically, swept through the CBGBs downtown scene like a plague.
It would really be helpful if you get somebody who's able to work the camera.
Well, that just means that there's a lack of good drugs down here at the studio if the camera is very steady.
And everybody got sucked into it because, we all wanted to be like William Burroughs and Lou Reed and all this stuff, and it was our heroes.
It's funny to think of being a junkie as aspirational.
It looks like it's the fucking dope house.
God damn, that's a really perceptive fellow there.
But the drugs were a tremendous downfall for us because we were with management who were really okay with cocaine use. That was fine. But once you graduated into heroin use, you were fucked.
You could buy a bag of heroin for $10 and get really fucked up, and that was one of the few bargains available to us, I suppose. Although in the end it didn't prove to be much of a bargain.
In 1982, the band announced a farewell tour, but the drugs were taking their toll, and The Hunter, their final album, barely made the top 40.
As Jimmy Destry told me, that sold 20,000 copies, The Hunter. 20,000 copies? What's that? It's like, must be a mistake.
As I'm sure you know, the tour was a disaster. It was just horrible. You know, we were booked into gigs at 20,000-seater places, and there's only 9,000 people there. But at that point, that's when Chris really started to look pale, skinny.
I remember something quite dramatic, because I went to the Hunter tour, and he was standing there dressed from head to foot in black, but I suddenly realized he looked like a ghost. He really had this white pallor, unbelievable.
Blondie were losing money on the tour, but as the band prepared to take their final curtain call, they discovered that they'd been losing money for years. Some of their advisors had proved less than reliable, and their rock and roll pension had disappeared.
They were attracting people who were pariahs. And you could see, you look at this guy and you go, oh man, here you go. You know, this guy's another fucking shark, another slime ball.
And I assume those guys made a lot of money off us.
We had a letter from our accountant saying basically saying don't expect any more money. It's all over. There's 25 grand left in the Blondie account. Make arrangements to pay your bills, because don't count on another penny from Blondie.
We were being attacked on all fronts at that point. Our label had dropped us, our management had walked out, and the IRS was closing in on us.
We were all in a tax hole. I think Chris owed near $1 million. I owed $500,000.
When you've been a good boy, this is what they give you. Platinum records. They represent 20 or 30 million album sales. And I think this is probably all that Debbie and Chris ever got.
Sold 20 million albums and we got 25 grand left in the account.
I don't think there were any dollars and cents that came with it.
After all of that work, we wound up in the red.
During all this time, Chris continued to lose weight. Even the folk at TV Party started to notice.
You know, Chris was always just kind of normal. You know, he wasn't fat, he wasn't thin, but then suddenly he was getting thinner and thinner. It was obvious that something was going on.
What are you tipping the scales at,
Amazing.
Chris?
140.
140, wow. When was the last time you weighed 140?
Years ago.
The frightening thing was that really nobody knew what it was.
I remember trying on Debbie's clothes and being very pleased that I could fit into her pants, actually, though. And, you know, they probably thought I looked great and gaunt.
He complained of a sore throat, and then it became very serious. He couldn't swallow. He couldn't get any food in.
And the next day we called an ambulance and I was, you know, hauled out.
The disease is called pemphigus vulgaris, and it's an immune disorder that manifests itself in a variety of ways, but one of them is these lesions, and it's really horrible.
70% of my skin blistered. You know, pemphigus is Latin for blisters. So I still have the shirt.
It's like burns.
You know that shit? That's all scarred.
This one nurse, you know, came over to me and pulled me aside and said, oh, I read this definition of what Chris's illness is.
It's really scary. I thought he was going to die.
So it was terminal. Said that he was dying, and that was that.
Horrible photograph of Debbie in something like the National Enquirer, one of those horrible magazines. She was photographed in a supermarket with a wheeler sort of thing, buying food, and she put a lot of weight on, and she really looked like a cartoon waxwork figure that melted or something. But she just took this attitude that she was going to stay by Chris and she was going to make it all work out.
I find that incredibly moving because it's so rare.
And I remember Debbie pretty much putting her career on hold to basically stay and help take care of Chris.
I really think it's inarguable that her career suffered.
With Debbie by his side, Chris defied the illness and gradually pulled through. But the cost was considerable. They lost the uptown mansion, and they were both still weaning themselves off heroin.
I remember, you know, everything was kind of sliding downhill. We were running out of money and stuff like that, and we had a really nice place uptown. We had to get a crummier place further downtown. We were both on methadone, which she went off pretty quickly, and I stayed on because my condition was stress-related. And my sexuality went down, and we just went out of sync, I think. I don't know what her take on it is anyway.
Basically, I think that's really right. Now that I look back on it, I think that I was sort of having a nervous breakdown of a sort.
I think her going off methadone quickly really that's really hard, too. And I think that made her really nuts.
I felt like I had been, going like this for so long. It was just like this crazy throbbing madness, that I just had to pull the plug.
Debbie left. I thought that was apparent.
And so that's what I did.
No, it's definitely her who decided to take a place down the block.
Fade away and radiate. Fade away and radiate. Fade away, radiate.
After the breakup, times were lean. Debbie had some success as an actress, but found it harder with solo records, while Chris battled drug addiction and serious debt.
Chris was bankrupt, and Jimmy wasn't far behind. Completely and utterly broke.
In the late 90s, out of rehab but still $1 million in debt, Chris decided to put a new version of the band together and pinned his hopes on a new song.
Hearing Maria for the first time was very moving because I realized that, even thinking about it gets me emotional because I just realized it could be a hit.
I was at the first recording session that I ever did with them, and the first thing I ever did was play Maria, and I had to come up with this guitar part for the intro, and I was thinking, like, Blondie, they always do that kind of stuff. So I just started playing.
It's instantly recognizable as a Blondie record from the and yet the voice is so much deeper at the beginning.
She moves like she don't care. Smooth as silk, cool as air.
And I think because obviously she'd worked in the intervening years with people like Jazz Passengers, and I think her voice has grown much richer and she's learned to do different things with it.
Your name and your heart beats like a subway train.
I couldn't sing the chorus, so I just did a keyboard line. Maria, I wanna see her. I did a little demo of it where I slowed the tape down and did the chorus, Maria, and Debbie got it right away. She goes, this is good. What was interesting was no one wanted to sign Blondie. So we made our own label. And they had a #1 single in 14 countries.
When the record came out, it went straight to #1 in 1 week. It was like she'd never been away. The record sounds like a rebirth, doesn't it? I mean, she even sings Ave Maria in the record.
I'm very gratified and happy that Blondie had sort of a rebirth, and Debbie looks great.
Done some plastic surgery. I think it was already at least 10 years now since I did it. Just have really good genetics.
The band were finally in the black. But this being Blondie, it wasn't that simple. The ex-members wanted their share and decided to sue.
You're all in a boat together. You're looking for that part at the end of the rainbow. And when it's just in sight, when you're finally out of debt, okay, you two guys, you're out now. I want that life back, like any musician does.
2006 finds Blondie still recording and touring, but with some new family members in tow.
That's Barbara. This is Barbara, my wife, Barbara. And we've been married for, what, 7 years now? About, right? Or together for 7 years, something like that. And then we had these babies. And there's another baby floating around, but it's not here. It's at the hotel. We left her at a bar last night.
I think early on in my relationship, I was intimidated and less secure and sort of wondering about this woman, his partner, and they are so close.
You left your thing.
What thing?
Your wireless.
I left it over there.
Maybe he wants it.
And they have love, and it was hard for me a little.
We go, baby, daddy. There you go.
No cry.
No cry.
Hello, Akira.
But I have a different relationship with him and have a different relationship with her.
By the second, you get prettier and prettier. Yes, you do. She does look really cute like that. She got crazy ears.
Good girl.
She does.
Good girl.
Hi, Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Akira.
And respect what they have, because why would I want to deny people that I love for one another?
Debbie is Akira and Valentina's godmother.
Yeah, so she gets him if anything happens to us.
I can't believe I get fortune.
With the age of some of the band touching 60, there are now health issues to be taken into account.
What we're struggling with is the fact that we have to keep our stage volume really low because over the years Debbie's developed tinnitus, ringing of the ears. So she's extremely sensitive to any kind of loud noise.
There's nothing like playing acoustic drums.
I have like this sort of very high-pitched thing, and sometimes I think when it started, I thought I was getting signals from outer space or something.
I actually have an elaborate baffling system with, I think you call it perspex over here, plexiglass. So the sound is a lot more controllable on stage.
Some band members, however, would like more than perspex between them and Clem.
I think you'd be best off behind a big wall of cinder blocks, which are the things that are used in construction sites, you know, those big gray things. If we could have one of those lowered, then we'd be okay. Clem drives me crazy because he's so completely different than I am. I mean, he's completely on the other side of the universe than me.
Well, this is the kind of stuff that makes me remember why I do this.
I am not very much interested in fucking reading rock magazines.
Keith Moon was a hero for me early on.
Keith Moon was an idiot.
You can go.
I always wanted to make it interesting. I want people to have something to look at.
Showmanship takes away from his playing on We Feel.
But I want to give the people something to have fun with when I'm on stage, you know?
Clem is very caught up in his rock and roll star persona, probably more so than anybody I know.
It's a great feeling. I mean, imagine if your whole life was like that, people cheering and telling you how great you were.
It is really like a family, in a way, in that respect. I mean, how many brothers and sisters actually dig each other, you know?
But in the Blondie family, there are other issues. They're missing one key member, Jimmy, who wasn't allowed on the current tour.
I used to do tons of drugs and stuff like that, but I stopped after a while, and Jimmy found it harder to pull himself out of all that.
I was having some drug problems.
Even though he thought he was doing okay, everybody else, you know, didn't see eye to eye with him. We all thought he was fucking up more than he did, obviously.
I think the band kind of read him the riot act and said, you know, we have to do this tour and you're not capable of doing it.
What they did to me was pretty pretty bald-faced wrong.
I think Debbie is kind of feels let down by Jimmy.
Yeah, I do. I feel really let down.
Perhaps more so than myself, you know. I don't know. I'm just maybe a sucker for that. He just has a lot of demons.
Chris had a very serious drug problem. We helped him through it. I was having some drug problems, and I was sort of ostracized for it.
There is something really wonderful about him, but there's also this complete horror. And when he lives in the horror side, which he tends to do quite a bit, you can't be with him. You can't be around him, and you can't work with him.
I think we go through each other like a hot knife through butter, and I can't see myself ever working with them again. Not on stage. Never again. But what I think they're missing is a hell of a fucking lot.
But in early 2006, Jimmy is just one of their problems. The original band is about to be inducted into America's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that means the ex-members who sued are invited too. It's the first time they've all met up since court.
I don't know what's going to happen at the Hall of Fame. If it was up to me and Debbie, they wouldn't be there, frankly.
How can they expect me to, want to say, welcome back, boys, I mean, it just doesn't, what kind of thinking is that?
The reunion with the other members, I doubt that they're going to show up.
I'm going. I've got my tickets. You want to see them?
Are you going up on stage with Chris, Debbie, Clem, and Jimmy?
Possibly. We don't know.
It has all the potential of being a rather explosive family reunion from past experiences.
So it's really relaxing. It's just great to be around all my peers and fellow bandmates once again in this friendly, cheerful environment, devoid of pressure or any kind of angst. Everyone's nervous and uptight, and we have to more or less brush elbows with the other idiots who are suing us still.
Look how beautiful I was.
Yes. 3 of them. Lee Fox, our current bass player, has been with us for 20 years.
And he's not getting inducted.
But Nigel, who we worked with for 4.5, is.
Yes.
So, that's the size of it.
Tonight, New York New Wave legends Blondie will become members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you is not enough, but we do have a long list of people that helped get us here.
I'd like to thank everybody that was responsible for getting us here tonight, both past and present.
I want to thank my wife, my 2 kids, and mostly I want to, and all the people. You'll see Blondie was a very big band. There's even more than this back in the day. But I mostly want to thank Debbie for sticking with me through this nonsense. Thank you.
Former Blondie member Frank Infante begged lead singer Deborah Harry to let him and Nigel Harrison play, but no dice.
One thing that could really make it better would be if we could actually perform for you tonight, but for some reason, some of us are not allowed to do that. I'd like to do that, and I'd like to play, but Debbie, is that allowed? No? We'd like to play with you guys. Me, Nigel? Not tonight? Oh, pretty please. Pretty please, Debbie, no. I love you.
Can't you see my band is up there?
Oh, your band.
My
I thought Blondie was being inducted tonight. Sorry.
Frankie pleaded with Debbie to play with us, and had she been fast on her feet enough, she would have said, "Get down and lick my boot." But she's not.
I would have liked to have played with the band tonight. I really would have liked to have played. Logistically, it might have been a little impossible. I have a good life now. I've been clean and sober for the longest time, and I'm enjoying it. And, I miss it, sure. I miss it. I saw Chris and Clem, and I miss them. There's an element that I miss, and there's an element I'm sure they miss, but this is how it is.
I'm holding on to this in case I see Frankie and Nigel.
Chris wants to get us and bash our heads in with his There's a Hall of Fame award.
The thing I think that made us different and a little unique was the tension within us.
We're ready.
Yeah, you know something?
Bring it on.
The reason I brought this was in case I run into any of those fuckers.
We're not friends so much as a family that doesn't hang out together. There's been little rays of sunshine where we all laughed and got along and went shopping together and stuff like that, but it was always a tense, irritable situation. And I think that internal tension, that's Blondie. You know, everybody doesn't mix, and that makes the music, in a way, that much more freaky and twitchy. That's what makes the band what it is.
Thank you so much. It's been a great night for us.
Go ahead. The champions.
Wish you all the best. And maybe we'll see you again sometime. I have to really say this, that, you know, we have had all these, you know, critical, you know, problems. I somehow think about God. I'm going to sound like such an idiot. I'm going to sound like a complete moron.
Where?
You know, in this documentary, in this whole situation, because
Why is that?
You know, I mean, we just sailed into it sort of in this dream state, you know, expecting everything to just be, you know, perfect.
What, the band, the documentary?
You
Which?
and me, babe. You and me.
Yeah, well, no.
Rock and roll legend Brian Pern returns.
You look like a BG gone wrong.
With a new album, a new tour.
Can't do that, Dave. I'm having a dishwasher delivered.
And a new wife.
I can see 2 of your channels. Higher.
Join me, award-winning filmmaker Rhys Thomas, OBE.
No!
For my Access All Areas documentary.
Surely the point of getting me in to read your book is because I sound like Martin Freeman.
Really? New comedy, Brian Pern. Starts Thursday at 10 on BBC 4.
In Search of a Style Icon, star and resistance heroine now on BBC4 as Darcy Muscle goes looking for Audrey.